I just saw Masters of the Universe and I want to talk about it because you know what? The Critical Drinker is a movie reviewer here on YouTube. He and I do not see eye to eye at all on most things. I think he's a grifter, a clickbait drama inducing channel. But I got to say, he and I, well, we actually agree on this one. I mean, come on. We're never on the same page. And well, so here we both are saying the same thing about Masters of the Universe, that this movie is a lot of fun. So if we can, who are mostly different, agree on a movie, I want to talk about that because there's more to this story than just fun. And honestly, there's more to the story than the movie itself. And if I didn't say it already, I'm Chad. This is Achieving Geekvana, and let's get into it. Before I can tell you what I think of this movie, I need to remind you what this movie is. Masters of the Universe has been in Hollywood development since roughly the Mesozoic era. So Sony had it, Netflix had it, scripts were written, directors came and went, He-Mans came and went. At one point, this movie was going to star someone whose primary qualification for the role appeared to be that he looked good in a rom-com. I mean, then Netflix came along, the streaming platform that, pretty much spends the GDP of a small island nation on a show that really nobody ever finishes. Well, they looked at a blonde man with a magic sword riding a giant green tiger and said, budget concerns, and they canceled it. Well, then Amazon MGM stepped in. Travis Knight, the director somehow who made a Transformers movie, Bumblebee, with an actual functioning human heart. And he came aboard, and suddenly we had a real cast. Nicholas Galitzine as He-Man. And I'm sorry if I mispronounced names. Jared Leto as Skeletor, and let's forget about that name. Anyways, Elba as Man-at-Arms, Camila Mendes as Tila, Allison Brie as Evil Lynn, Marina Baccarin as the Sorceress. And well, the internet, as required by ancient law, immediately had thoughts about all of it. So basically, I ignored those thoughts. I bought a ticket, I sat down, and here's what I actually saw. So I want to start with the casting because it's where the movie earns a lot of wins. Let's start with Nicholas Galitzine. He is genuinely pretty transformational in this run. I want to be specific about that word because it does apply literally. I mean, he's playing two characters, really. He makes you believe they're different people. As Prince Adam, the prince hiding in plain sight on Earth, he's unsure. He's a little awkward, slightly cringy in the best possible way. He's a guy carrying a secret that he really doesn't fully understand yet. And Galitzine plays that uncertainty with real texture here. You feel the weight of someone who doesn't know who he's supposed to be. Well, and then he raises the sword. And when he becomes He-Man, same actor, completely different presence, commanding, assured, the voice drops, the posture changes, the eyes mean something different. The confidence isn't performed, it's inhabited. That's harder to pull off than it sounds, and Galitzine pulls it off. I mean, he actually makes you believe in the transformation. Okay, Camila Mendes. I mean, she makes for a solid Tila. She has the look, she has the voice, she carries the authority of the character needs. I mean, she's not given the most complex arc, but, she delivers everything that's asked of her for this role. Now, before I move on to Man-at-Arms, I just want to say there may be a few small, what you may consider minor spoilers. I don't consider them spoilers, but if you don't want to hear any story beats at all, you may want to step out for a little bit and come back. But anyways, let's move on to Idris Elba as Man-at-Arms because it's interesting. In a so-so way. I mean, he's solid in the role, and of course he is because it's Idris Elba, right? But the choice to make Man-at-Arms sort of a functioning drunkard who's let everyone down after their first major defeat just kind of feels off character for someone who is essentially supposed to be the most dependable soldier in Eternia. I mean, it creates a great redemption arc that works on its own terms, but it required making Man-at-Arms someone I really didn't recognize as related to the character in the cartoon. The performance is good, solid. The creative choices, though, well, maybe debatable. And now we go to Skeletor. Yes, Jared Leto is under there. I want you to understand that I watched this entire film and did not once consciously think about the fact that Jared Leto was playing Skeletor. And that's a good thing because I am not a Jared Leto fan. But, the voice, the look, the cadence, it all just works. And given what we know about Jared Leto's approach to certain roles over the years, I mean this really as the highest compliment. And that is, you cannot tell it's him. Yep. And that is not a small thing. It actually benefits the movie in my book. Anyways, Allison Brie as Evil Lindo is really having the time of her life. And it really shows. I mean, but maybe it's too much at times. But there are moments where the performance is perfectly calibrated, deliciously sinister, exactly the right amount of theatrical release. And then there are moments where it tips just slightly over the edge into something that feels more like a Halloween costume than a villain. But when it works, it really works. And when it's too much, well, it's a little too much. The dial needed a slight adjustment. But to be honest, she has the look, she has the energy and on balance. I'd rather have an evil Lynn who goes too big rather than one who plays it safe. And now I've got to be honest about Marina Baccarin as the Sorceress of Castle Grayskull. On paper, I think it's perfect casting. She has the presence, the gravitas, the look, but something didn't quite land in the execution, whether it was underwritten dialogue or something that happened between script and screen. Her lines never hit with a weight that they should. I mean, the sorceress is supposed to be this voice of ancient power and cosmic significance. And well, in this film, she just felt like she was delivering pages. I mean, it's the one performance where I kept waiting for a moment that never quite arrived. And we're going to talk about why that was here in a little bit. Now let's talk about the movie itself. At 2 hours and 21 minutes, Masters of the Universe is probably longer than it needs to be. I mean, that's just the truth. The backstory at the movie opening is rather slow, but it does have a funny payoff with a twist, which is nice. However, as the movie continues, you start to see some pacing issues, slow, more emotional moments, some plot gaps that don't quite hit or go longer than needed. I mean, after all, this is a He-Man movie, so give me more action, less talky, But I think this is probably a result of having too many writers, which in this case, there were 6 different writers credited. That's a lot of rewrites that probably jumbled things up and that doesn't mean it's not much fun to watch, but it's actually very enjoyable and it's worth it. But it is what kind of keeps the movie from hitting that 10 out of 10 status. So let's talk about some elements of the story that I felt were kind of off a little bit before we get to the good stuff. Okay, we had Adam's earthly roommate while he was on Earth, and this is an issue and essentially a placeholder. I mean, the character exists, but never really lands, and the film doesn't use him in any meaningful way. He's set up and then mostly forgotten until the end of the movie, where he only becomes a funny moment. And then there's a stretch in the middle after the escape sequence when our heroes are recovering in the forest where the movie loses that momentum in a way. And that's really hard to ignore. And it's kind of catastrophic to the pace of the movie, but you feel it. I mean, those are real issues with the movie. But here's the thing. The good stuff far overshines the issues that are there. The fight sequences in the movie are extraordinary, over the top, perfectly choreographed, visually relentless in the best possible way. I mean, they feel like the cartoon made real. And I mean that as a genuine compliment, not a criticism. I mean, this movie understands that He-Man fights should feel mythic and excessive and completely committed to the bit. There's a point during the battle sequences where I genuinely felt like I was 10 years old again, sitting cross-legged on the floor in front of a Saturday morning television set, completely losing my mind. And that feeling is not something that a movie can just manufacture. Either it's there or it isn't. And with this movie, it's definitely there. And then there's this. I mean, the movie doesn't try to be all serious or take itself too serious. And I mean, that's a good thing, right? I mean, with trying to make a children's cartoon show into something that's a little bit more relatable for people who are much older now or even new audience members, having that levity and that lightness taking some jabs of some of the silliness around the cartoon, I think helps open up the story and give it some heart in the big scheme of things. Now, while at times the comedy is a little over the top, it does a good job of keeping those things light and enjoyable. Like I said, they mix the emotional with comedy and tie it all together. I mean, one of my favorite things about it is how the movie explains all the weird character names in Eternia, names like Ram Man, Fisto, Mechanic, Trapjaw, Beastman. And they say the answer is Adam. I mean, when Adam was young, he escaped from Eternia. And in that way that any child would do, trying to hold on to the people and the story of where he comes from that he may never see again. I mean, he gave them names he could remember, simple names, descriptive names, the names of a kid doing his best not to forget. Now, I don't know if the filmmakers understood what they were doing when they wrote those scenes, but those moments of world building really do a lot for the emotional foundation of this franchise, so much more than anything that the 1987 film attempted in its entire runtime. I mean, it's kind of a clever tag to add to the movie. It's kind of warm, and it makes you care a little bit more about Eternia in a way that all the spectacle in the world really couldn't manufacture on its own. And the movie never apologizes for what it is, and I appreciate that. It makes fun of itself gently, respectfully, from a place of genuine love. I mean, it is earnest in the best possible way and somehow manages to make a 40-year-old franchise feel simultaneously nostalgic, but also brand new. Okay, so here's where I have to tell you the part of this whole story that really isn't very fun. Masters of the Universe opened to $30 million in the US and combined with global box office made $54 million worldwide. This was really against a budget of like 250 million, I believe. Well, it got beaten by Scary Movie. Yeah, that's right. Scary Movie. The horror comedy franchise has been dormant for over a decade, came back. Critics gave it a 30% on Rotten Tomatoes, and audiences still showed up anyway. Now, I'm not knocking Scary Movie. It may be really good. But meanwhile, Masters of the Universe was setting at 66% critic score and 87% audience score. But, you know, people who saw the Masters of the Universe movie loved it. Unfortunately, it was just mainly the people who grew up with He-Man. It just didn't bring in the younger audience or new people. I mean, when you look at the stats that are starting to come out. I mean, I'm not here to tell you that box office always reflects quality. If you've watched this channel for any length of time, you know that I believe exactly the opposite. But there's something worth setting in that number. A movie spent 15 years trying to get made. It overcame a Netflix cancellation, multiple false starts, years of internet skepticism, a discourse about whether its lead actor was masculine enough to hold a sword, and it still finally got made. It got made pretty much right with genuine craft, genuine heart, genuine commitment to the source material, and unfortunately, it opened below Scary Movie on a June weekend. I mean, I think about what I said earlier, that the trick isn't to make He-Man realistic. The trick is to make He-Man honest. Travis Knight made an honest He-Man movie, and Hollywood will use these numbers, though, to decide whether to make another one. And unfortunately, that's the part that's probably going to sting. Okay, here's the beat. Masters of the Universe is not a perfect movie. It's too long, has a slow middle, a couple of performances don't land the way they should, and Adam's roommate exists on Earth, which I still have not fully made peace with why that character exists. But it's okay, I'll get over it. But anyways, it's a great, fun movie. I mean, it's the kind of movie that reminds you why you fell in love with these characters in the first place. And I hope it'll do that for you just as it did it for me. I mean, it found the heart of He-Man and put it on the screen with $200 million worth of action and craft wrapped around it. So I highly recommend you go see it. Take someone who grew up watching the cartoon. It'll be a lot of fun. Watch their face during the fight scenes. That's the movie. And remember, gimmicks create moments, creativity creates fandom, and sometimes, not always, but sometimes, creativity deserves a whole lot better than the weekend haul that it got. Anyways, I'm Chad. This is Achieving Geekvana. And as always, stay geeky, my friends. Stay geeky. And I'll see you next time. Later.